A lot of you here are building products, right? Can somebody please shut the door? A lot of you here are building products, right? Do you find your products getting the user love that they deserve? The investor attention that they deserve? I mean, this guy had people lining up at night waiting to buy their product. What do we have to do? We have to beg, chase our users, right? Do you think our products are any worse? Do we get the customer love we deserve? We really sacrifice for our products, right? They are our babies. Anybody who's built a product has probably put in as much love and attention as you in bringing up your baby, right? Why is it that we don't get that love back from our customers and from our investors? What are we doing wrong? And we all want passionate users. We are passionate. As product owners, we want passionate users, we want passionate developers, we want our salespeople to be very passionate, right? We want advocates, whether it's within the company or outside, to be very passionate. What makes them more passionate? How do we get that passion? Now, the thing is, how do you get that passion? That is what we're going to talk about today. How do we get that passion for your product? The passion that you feel, how do you get that from your audience? We all know passion comes from the hearts, right? So the first thing is, where does passion come from? Not the brain, right? You can't logically be passionate about something. Does it make any logical sense for somebody to be sitting up at night waiting in queue to buy an iPhone? Makes no sense, right? They could buy it a week later. I mean, it's not going to make any difference to their lives. So something else is going on, right? Something is happening in their hearts. How do we reach people's hearts? What is the secret to somebody's hearts? And when we are not able to get that attention, what do we normally do? Huh? What do we do? I'll tell you what I used to do before I got into this discipline, storytelling. Right? Try to dazzle them with logic, with brilliance. Right? The brilliance of my product. Add more features, add more performance. Right? Say, no, users are not impressed, let's add more. Even when you're talking about your product, you do that. I mean, I had an entrepreneur talk to me a little while ago. First thing he started talking about was how great his technology was. Right? And after like about 3 minutes, I say, I don't give a F all about your technology. Talk to me about what you're going to do for me. Right? But that's what we normally do, or what? We say, no, customers are not liking our product so much. Let's change the UI. Right? Maybe we need a celebrity spokesperson, right? Our marketing is bad. It's the marketing guy's fault. Maybe we're not spending enough on PR. What do you do, right? Maybe I need to be wearing a different set of clothes. Does any of this work? We know it doesn't, right? So what is it? What is the secret to reaching somebody's heart? What is the secret to reaching somebody's heart? As this is the secret. Stories are a direct channel for the heart. This is why storytelling is so important. Okay, and you don't have to take my word for it. You're going to hear from Vinod Khosla. So for those of you who don't know, for some of the younger people, you may not know who he is. This guy was a founder of Sun Microsystems. So, as techie and as successful as you can make it. And he was, I think he's one of the top VCs out of globally ever out of that, right? So you're going to hear from Vinod. Audio, please.
The most.
Okay. Let me start again.
Act of doing something large. Probably the thing that entrepreneurs miss the most is after you have the facts on your side, it's not good enough. You have to do storytelling.
Did everybody get that? He said 3 very important things in there. First is, this is the thing that entrepreneurs, and I'm going to expand that to all product owners, this is the one thing that we all miss the most. This is the number 1 miss. Second part is, you have to have the facts on your side. What that means is, you better have a good product. You know, none of what I'm going to tell you makes up for lack of a good product or good customer understanding. Okay, but that's not enough. You do these things, that's not enough. What do you also have to do? What do you also have to do? Storytelling. Right? You heard it from the horse's mouth. So we know the answer, right? Storytelling is the key. But we already build stories, don't we? I mean, anybody who's following any kind of a rigorous process for building products, you're already writing user stories. Hai ki nahi? What's wrong with these stories? Huh? I mean, most of our stories are feature descriptions wrapped up in a user persona, right? You take a feature description, slap on a user persona, it becomes a story. So what's wrong with that? Remember, what problem are we trying to solve with stories? Why do we need stories in the first place? We need passion, right? We need passionate users, customers, developers. We said we need to touch their hearts, right? That's the whole point of doing storytelling. Do our users' stories the way we do them today, do they touch hearts? Is there any emotional content? So here's the big difference. The awesome products tell a story. Now you'll say, what the hell does that mean? What does that even mean? The product tells a story. Let me tell you what it means. Good products have great features, right? Great performance, the basics, the logics, right? Then they have decent navigation. They have, so anyway, I'll come to customer experience later. Great products focus on the outcomes. They don't talk about features, they talk about outcomes, ROI, what benefits that the user derives, right? And normally we stop here. What's the level beyond? What do awesome products do? What is customer experience? So I'll tell you. Awesome products make the user a hero with your product as a superpower. Okay? Guys, if there's one thing you take away from the session, it should be this line. An awesome product makes your user a superhero with your product as the superpower. Don't we love that? Right? So I'm just jumping ahead, but one thing I always get asked is, right, customer experience, right? You need to make it easy to use, and you need to make it simple, and so on and so forth. Have you ever met the owner of a motorbike, a heavy one, or maybe a Bullet? Is the Bullet an easy product? Right? It makes such a big noise, it's difficult to handle, it's so accident prone. Does it give a great customer experience? Right? So ease of use is not customer experience. Let's get that clear, but I'll come back to this point. Okay? So everybody get that? Okay. Problem solved? Are we done? No. Problem is, okay, even though we say, okay, a great product, an awesome product, makes the user a hero, and they build a story with your product as a superpower. How? Problem is, we are all very logical people, right? We are not trained to build stories. Because we've always been told storytelling is an art. Anybody who doesn't agree with this statement, storytelling is an art? Is there anybody who disagrees? It's not a complete art. Okay. There's a science to it. Okay. Are we artists? Anybody who is an artist, you're free to leave. Okay. So how do we logical, systematic, technology process people become storytellers? We're not artists. Right? So are we doomed? कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Are we doomed to play second fiddle to marketing? Right? That's what Dilbert's been telling us for decades now. Right? No hope? Well, fortunately. So, what do we need? What do we need? We're not artists, right? But once you make it a system or a process, we know how to deal with it, right? So I'm going to give you something which hard to believe, right? I'm going to give you a process to build stories, a technology to build stories. And that's what I call StoryProcess. Okay? So what we will talk about today is StoryProcess, which is a process to build stories, especially designed for technology and analytical folks. Okay. Now, fortunately, there is an underlying structure to stories. Okay. And I've decoded that for you. A story is all about emotions. Right? If you go back, what are we trying to do? We're trying to touch our users' hearts, our audience's hearts. It's all about emotions, right? So stories have an underlying structure, what's called a story arc, which is about the emotional roller coaster that you put your user on. What does that mean? Okay. Which means we take the user on a ride like a roller coaster. However, that roller coaster cannot be a random one. You can't take them on random emotions. Okay? The twists and turns. Just like if you get on a roller coaster, do you think the rides, the twists and turns are random? They're very well planned, right? There is a design to it. Similarly, there's a design to good stories. Okay? And the story arc is a design pattern which is designed to build engagement with your users. Okay? And I'm about to reveal the essential elements of a story arc. Okay? And this is it. Okay. Now, let's just quickly, oh, you know what? Instead of describing it, let me just show you. Okay. So I'm going to take a very simple story. Everybody's familiar with the story of Cinderella? Know that story? Let's see how that works here. So how does the story start? There's a beautiful girl and her mother dies. And her father remarries. Did we get the oh shit moment? And she thinks, oh, you know, I have a new mother, maybe things will be all right again. But the stepmother is evil. And the stepsisters are evil. Right? It's coming down. And they make her the servant of the family. And just when you think things can't get any worse, there's a ball and she's not invited. Everybody is going and she's not allowed to go, right? And so here she is, nothing to look forward to, nothing to have, right? No future. All is lost. And then what happens? So she's home all alone. Everybody else is at the party, right? What happens then? Everybody knows the story, right? What happens then? Fairy godmother appears. Now, in your stories, who is fairy godmother? Customer? Oh, sorry. Huh? You are fairy godmother. Let's get this right. You are not the hero. I know you do that all the time, but that's the mistake. Okay? Your customer is the hero and you are the fairy godmother. Remember, you are going to an awesome product makes the customer a hero with your product as a superpower. So fairy godmother has the superpowers, which she is going to give to Cinderella, right? And so what does fairy godmother do? She says, oh, okay, you need to go to the ball, you'll need nice clothes. Take my wand and convert that into nice clothes, right? You'll need a chariot, bring a pumpkin. You need horses, bring some rats, right? Or you'll need some slippers. Off you go, be back by midnight, right? So things start to look up for her. And off she goes, and she goes to the ball, and what happens? Everybody's looking at her. Suddenly she's the center of attention. Right? It keeps going up. The prince starts to dance with her. The prince falls in love with her. Right? She's at the peak. And then what happens? Huh? Clock strikes 12. Of course, it's a little steeper than what I'm showing here. Right? But the curve falls down. And then, of course, it's down again. But things are a little better because, she's seen a different reality now. It was totally hopeless over there. It's now, she's seen a different reality. And then what happens? The shoe fits and happily ever after. Right? So we can see that this curve works for simple stories. What does that have to do with products? We'll get to it. Just for fun, I really enjoy this. Let's also take a stupid movie theme. So let's take a James Bond movie theme. Right? Very predictable plot, right? Totally simple, misogynistic themes. And yet it's a lot of fun to watch, right? So how does a normal Bond movie start? Starts with some action sequence, even before the numbering, right? They've got you hooked within the first couple of seconds. You just can't look away, right? He's jumping off a cliff, he's going straight into a plane, he's blowing up some stuff. So first 30 seconds, 45 seconds, it's just some action sequence, you can't look away, right? And then the numbering starts, and within a few minutes, what happens? M's calling him into his office and saying, some terrorist has a bomb, they're going to blow up the world, right? There's that oh shit moment. And off he goes, right? He goes and shoots a couple of people, so you get a little tease, things are looking good, right? And then he starts to lose. Right? And then the girl is caught. Then he's trapped. And then about 20 minutes into the movie, you find, he's strapped to some board and there's some laser which is going to kill him in the next few seconds. Right? All is lost. And then what happens? He pulls out this little fancy gadget. some laser beam which cuts through the steel, and he's miraculously out of the, right? And so on and so forth. Now, where are you in this story? Where is your product in this story? It's a gadget, right? You are the superpower. You're building the superpower for the hero. Make sense? So this part fits, right? What does it have to do with products? Now, before we go there, I'll show you everything. But before we go there, I'm going to have some more fun. Let's see how we do our normal stories. So let's reverse the thing, right? We look at how, if the Cinderella story was being done by one of us, how would it be done? How do we mess up a great, simple fairy tale? So okay, in the Cinderella story, who are you? Fairy godmother, right? So how would your story start? Right? And the first thing you say is, you know what, I got to impress these guys. So you got to show all your testimonials and awards. Right? And then you'll say, you know what, we better talk about the problem. Right? And then quickly we'll just build on the problem a little bit. Yeah, no, she had big problems. And my product has some great features. And I even do some encryption. And of course, there's some great benefits. So we talked about the features, we talked about the benefits, right? We do a little bit about the competitors. And then, of course, we have a feature comparison where all our boxes are checked, and everybody else has a lot of misses. I've never seen a chart which looks otherwise. And then you will talk about it. Thank you. So honestly, guys, isn't this what we do? Isn't this what we do all the time? So now all we have to do is reverse it. Isn't that great? All we have to do is reverse it with our products. So now I'll give you how does it work for real products? And again, let me just show you. Okay. Now I'm going to show you an ad by Google, and most of you have probably seen this before. Okay. And what I want you to look for in this, look for the story arc, look for the oh shit moments, look for when the product comes in and how it becomes a superpower. Right? It doesn't start by saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, the mistake we all make. So just watch for that, okay?
ये मैं, ये यूसुफ, लंगोटिया यार सी मेरा। लाहौर में हमारे घर के सामने एक बड़ा बाग था। उस बाग का गेट बाबा आदम के जमाने। रोज शाम को हमने वहाँ पतंगे उड़ानी और उसके बाद जाके यूसुफ की दुकान से झझरिया चुरा के खानी।
झझरिया?
और मेरा साहब नमस्ते।
नमस्ते, मेरी पोती मुंबई वाली।
और बेटे क्या हाल चाल है?
भैया थोड़ा जल्दी।
हाँ जी। कौन? हैप्पी बर्थडे यारा। यूसुफ, यूसुफ, वो यूसुफ। मेरे बल्लू ओए यूसुफ यार
Guys, what an amazing user story, है ना? And do you feel that superpower bit? Right? Who's the hero in this story? Huh? Yeah, the granddaughter, right? And she's able to do something really amazing with the product, right? It's a superpower in the true sense. Isn't that what you want your product to be? Okay. Acha, just before I go there, did you see the arc at play here? It hooks you very nicely, gives you that oh shit moment, right? When does the product starts to come in? The features get introduced? After all is lost, right? Once you know, this is the specific issue that I'm running into, right? It's about the hero wanting to get something done, and that's the point that the product comes in, right? And it's dripping with emotion. Of course, there's somebody's done a great creative job of it, but I can tell you it's not so much about the production quality, it's about the story arc that is what's doing it, okay? And I can see some tears in the audience, right? If search can make people cry, imagine what your product can do. Okay? Okay. Then the other question I get a lot is, well, that's great for a B2C consumer product. What about B2B product? There's no people there. Well, again, let me just show you something. So does this apply to B2B? What I'm going to do is show you, again, another video. This is a Salesforce video. And again, I want you to look for the same things. Look at the arc, look at when Salesforce first comes into this, look at the emotion part of it. And just a point before we get into this, I know I'm showing a lot of videos and that's more for convenience. When I do longer workshops, we even go through emails, we go through PPTs, so this technique, this curve works. It's agnostic to the medium, okay? Just it's a lot easier to show here with videos.
If you think of the way that we use information to run our business, that is the next big frontier. Customers tomorrow are going to demand, if you know this much about me and you can add value, I expect you to do that. And you know what? If we don't, then there are other firms that will. We have two choices. We can be a laggard and we will be Uberized out of the world, or we can respond. That's much more fun. With the support and the cooperation with Salesforce, we are turning the dial significantly, which is fundamentally going to transform the way that we engage. We need to make sure that we're putting the customer at the heart of everything that we do. And we can't do that alone. We need to partner with the best suppliers of technology and data solutions in the world. And that's why we've chosen to work with Salesforce.
Okay. It's much shorter, right? Did you see that curve here? He talks about an all is lost moment. Says, if we don't do this for our customers, somebody else will. And we'll be Uberized out of this world. Right? He says, and with the help of technology partners like Salesforce, right? This amazing user story. So it doesn't go into as much detail because it's much shorter, but the structure is all the same, right? Now you start expanding and you start building your features, but they are all supporting the main user story that he's talking about. Okay? Now, building stories is a superpower for all of you product owners. Why? Because you have a lot of issues you face. you have a lot of problems. I'll just talk about some of them. Okay. Now, before we get into the applications of, why do you need storytelling? We talked about it. You need to get passion, but I want to get into a little more specific detail because there are real issues that product managers, product owners face. Where do you start? So I've given you a very skeletal outline, right? You've seen that curve, you've seen some examples. There is a playbook. There's actually a playbook, and I'm going to give you the highlights, and then I'm going to give you a way to get much more detail. So here's the highlight. A story basically has three essential elements. There is a goal, there is a conflict or a hurdle, and then there is a resolution to that, right? The goal is for Cinderella to get to the ball, right? The conflict is doesn't know how to get there. Resolution is the product owner has a wand which will convert a pumpkin to a chariot, right? So there's a 5-step playbook. The first, you absolutely have to know your audience because your story is more about the audience than about you. Product is more about the customer or the user than about you, right? That's the number one mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. I was just giving that example. Somebody who kept talking about their technology or their features. It's about who it's for. Second thing is you have to understand their motivations, their goals, their desires, or a trigger which is causing that need. The trigger could be something external. There's a new competitor, there's a new regulation, right? There's a legal change. What is the conflict? What is stopping me from reaching my goal, right? That has to be fully mapped out. How can you, with your product, help me resolve that conflict, right? And then, as a result, how did they transform? So the best products actually transform the user. Okay, now I know some of you are taking down, and there's a lot more detail behind it. Let me just show you a way to get that information. So what I'll do is, I really want to connect with all of you on an ongoing basis. Here's a way, with this URL. You can just connect with me. I will share with you a summary of what I'm talking about today, as well as a 2-page template, which helps you totally capture your story, the product and the user story. Okay? And trust me, when you fill in that template, the story just pops out. Okay? So you can just use that to connect with me. Okay. Now let me just come back and talk about why is story building a superpower for product owners? So the first big issue for a lot of product owners, product managers is they have a lot of responsibility but not the authority. Right? You're responsible for success, the sales of your product. Do you control the sales force? No. Very often marketing is also not under your control. Right? You're responsible for user experience or quality. Development doesn't work for you. Ship dates are your responsibility, but development is somebody else. QC is somebody else, right? So you have a lot of responsibility without authority. Product managers have the hardest role. Okay? And then it leads into a lot of questions. How do you prioritize features? You're getting a lot of pull from different areas, right? Some customers are asking, sometimes developers have their own pet peeves. Management has a vision. How do you bring all of it together and prioritize features? Sometimes it's, whoever has the loudest voice wins. That's not the best way to build a product. How do you avoid feature creep? This is a big problem, right? With feature creep, not only are you wasting resources, you make your product much worse. How do you align and inspire your teams? Because you have, your different teams, everybody from sales to development and QC, they all have to be aligned finally for the product to work. How do you get them all working together? Right? All of this happens with stories. If you have a good user story, everybody understands what is important, priorities come out of this. Everybody understands what we need to do. you get everybody aligned and inspired. A great story is very inspiring, right? So how do you build products that customers love? It's about the story. Now, I'm just going to give one example, something, a great story I came across, which is Airbnb at one stage for the products team, they went and hired Pixar animators. Everybody know who Pixar is? So they hired animators from Pixar. They said, why did they do that? Did they plan to have toons come and share rooms with you, or what? So it was actually a brilliant move, because what they did was they storyboarded the whole customer journey. For somebody from searching for planning a vacation, looking for a room, going, staying, coming back, and once they mapped the whole thing out, what they listed was all the emotional moments. Because remember, passion is about emotion. Passion is an emotion, right? Let all the emotional moments come out, and great storytellers understand this very well, right? So by hiring people from Pixar, they could really bring out the emotions very well. Next, they took the most important of these moments and built stories around them. The most emotional moments, either the positives or the negatives, right? When are you most scared? If you will in Airbnb, I've used it, you're very scared at the time that you show up. Will the room be as promised? Right? Will it be clean? Will I have some strange thing happen? That's a very emotional moment. So they actually took special care of that. And then they adapted their product to make sure that those moments were awesome. That's what really drove the growth of Airbnb. Okay? And the very interesting thing that came out is most of those moments were outside of the product touch points. So by coming into the story, they were able to control very critical moments, which if you'd gone with a product-centric approach would never even have shown up, right? Because most of the action happens offline, right? It's before and after you've touched the product, not while you're on the product. Now, okay, a big code, I'll not go into that. The point, one thing I want to just mention here is, of course, Airbnb had the resources, right? They had the resources to be able to bring in Hollywood quality talent. You and I don't have those resources. Okay? But here's the secret. They did not have this technology. They did not have this process. So what you can do is replicate what they did, because you know how to build great stories now, right? And with the information I'm going to share with you, you will be able to do it very effectively. So let me just come back to one point I'd raised earlier. We all do user stories already. What's wrong with them? And let's say, again, I'm just going to show you what that is. So today, mostly we write a feature narrative. And if I relate it back to the Cinderella example, it's like saying, you can wave the wand and a pumpkin becomes a chariot, right? That's describing a feature of the product. You can write a benefit narrative, which is now the user has a stylish chariot to ride in. Well, what is the story narrative? What's missing in both of these? The emotion, right? Once you bring in the emotion, it becomes a story. Because the ultimate objective or the ultimate payoff for the user was to be revealed as a princess at the ball, right? It changed her life. Okay? That's what a story is about. That's what your products can do, right? But we need to bring that out. Okay. Now I'm just going to talk about customer experience again that got mentioned. What makes great customer experience? Right? And I briefly touched upon the bikes example to show that it's not really about features, it's not really about convenience, it's not really about removing points of friction, it's not about noise, it's not about ease of use. What is it about? What is it about? The feeling that you get, right? And I'll just make it more clear, crystal clear. What is the secret sauce? What do awesome products do? Let's go back. What do awesome products do? Make you a hero and give you a superpower. Anybody who's riding a bullet, what do they feel like? It makes them feel like a hero. That's why it had a great customer experience. So customer experience is a story. Customer experience is a story that your user writes in their head. Okay? Customer experience is all in their mind. It's not in your product, it's not in your features, it's not in your UI, not in your UX. It's in their heads. It's the story that you help them envision and create with your product as a superpower. That make sense? So again, the same line I said, awesome products makes a customer a hero, and your product is the superpower they have as a hero, right? A great experience is feeling like a hero. That's what we all want, right? When somebody buys a BMW, they might say, yeah, I like the engineering. How many have even opened the hood to see what's inside? Do they really mean it that I like the engineering? No, they like the feeling they get when they ride in it, right? How they're seen by others. Hero banna hai. Okay. So what superpower will you give your users? Because it's their story that you have to enable. Okay? So now you have the tools, you have the power to do this. You know how to build stories, right? And I know it's sketchy information, we had limited time. Usually I do these are day-long workshops with a lot of follow-on. But you have the basics, and I've shown you a way to connect. So what story will you create? No excuses now. Okay, and again, in case somebody missed it, here's a way to connect back. Okay, and like I said, I will share two things with you. I will share a 2-page template. I've used this again and again and again in building stories. Works very well. And I will share a summary of this talk. Okay, how much time do we have for questions? No question, no time. Okay, so guys, we can take some questions offline. Okay, thank you.